So we had some support to be able to bring you guys these ingredient kits and to bring this virtual lesson. So thank you to the American Cancer Society, to Kohl's. They created a healthy eating active living grant, or a HEAL grant, that they gave us some support for to be able to give you guys this lesson. So thanks to those programs for making these virtual lessons possible. Also, thank you to Pete's Fruit Market. They supplied us with all these pineapples. We're so excited to use fresh pineapple. It's so much better than the canned stuff. And I get to teach you how to cut a pineapple, so that's fun. They also delivered them to us for free, and that was really nice of them. So thank you to Pete's Fruit Market. Shop there if you can. Also, thank you to Knorr. In your swag bags that everyone got, you got a few goodies from Knorr that they also donated to us to give you guys for free. So we got some stock. This is like you mix it with water and you can make sauces and soups with those. They're very convenient. We also got some bouillon cubes. These you can mix with water, like boiling water. They dissolve and become stock or broth. And then you also got a Moroccan spice packet from them. So thank you to Knorr for that, and their continued support for supplying us with recipes and ingredients for our students. In addition, in your swag bag, you got a booklet. This is from the Healthy Families. This is a Healthy Families guidebook that came from the HEAL grant. And there are some physical activity recommendations I'd like you to check out on page 4 and 5. For kids should be getting 60 minutes of physical activity every day. Adults should be getting 30 to 60 minutes of physical activity every day. That can, I'm sorry, not every day, 5 times a week, so almost every day. And that can include anything from sports that you play to playing outside, playing at a park, on the playground, going for a hike, just taking a walk. So make sure you're getting that physical activity in to stay healthy and reduce your risk of disease later on in life. Let's see. Oh yeah, you also got some cool cooking equipment. We're going to be actually using one of the things today. So we've been using these in class a lot. This is a microplane. We use this to zest. We also grate things with it when we want to grate things really finely. So you can use that for your garlic today, and we're definitely going to be using it for our ginger. You also got a liquid measuring cup and a set of measuring spoons. So if you don't have measuring spoons or a microplane already at home, you'll want to take that out because we'll be using those tonight. And then finally, I just wanted to let you all know that we are recording this lesson. I don't think any of you will be on the recording, right? I'll be the only one on the recording. So you can still talk and ask questions and all of that, but your faces will not be on the recording at all. And then we're going to share this just with your fellow students who aren't able to make it tonight. So let's get started. We're making this jerk chickpea taco and pineapple salsa recipe. I love this recipe. It's so delicious. I'm going to just quickly go through all of the equipment that you need and all of the ingredients that you need, which you can find on the back of the recipe. So on the back of the recipe, you have a list of all of the equipment that you need. You have a list of ingredients that we did not supply, which is just pepper, salt, and oil. I'm using canola oil. You can use any kind of vegetable oil. We're using the oil to cook, so the only kind of oil I probably wouldn't use is olive oil, just because it burns pretty easily. But if that's all you have, that's fine too. And then also on the back, you have the abbreviations for the spices. So there are abbreviations on every spice packet, and you can see on the back of your recipe what those abbreviations represent. All right, so as far as equipment goes, you're going to need a can opener. You're going to need a chef's knife. You you can also use a paring knife, especially if you have some younger siblings that are helping out tonight. That's a good thing for like 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. Otherwise, our students have been learning how to use a chef's knife in class, so you'll be using that a lot tonight. You're gonna need a colander. We're gonna use this, some of you might call it a strainer. We're gonna be using this to drain and rinse our beans. Put these aside. You'll need a cutting board, of course. You'll need dry measuring cups. If you don't have them, not a big deal. We can estimate. Remember, the kind of dry measuring cups are the kind that stack together. You'll need hot mitts. We are using the stove tonight, so always use hot mitts when you're using a stove. You're also going to need a large skillet, just some sort of frying pan. You'll need a set of measuring spoons. Like I said, if you don't have those, we supplied those for you, so you can grab those out of your swag bag. You'll need a microplane, same thing. We supplied that for you if you don't have it already. We need either a plate and a towel. This is just to keep our tortillas warm. If you don't want to do that, you can also just get like a Tupperware container, and this is just to keep them warm after we eat them while we cook the rest of the recipe. And then I would recommend getting a small bowl out, or like a prep bowl. This is going to be helpful when we measure out our spices. A scissors could be helpful. This is really more for the younger students, since our middle schoolers are using chef's knives. So once again, if you have younger family members helping you out, this is good to get them involved. What else do we need? We need a small mixing bowl. This is for our salsa that we're going to be making. You need a spatula for flipping. So this is like what you'd flip a pancake with. And then you also need a rubber spatula or a mixing spoon. So you could use like a wooden spoon. Any kind of mixing spoon will work. We're going to use this to saute and then also just to mix our salsa. What else? And then the last thing is a spoon. And that was not included on the list. I apologize. You're going to just need a regular spoon that you'd eat with. We're going to use this to peel our ginger, which we did in class today. So all of our students should know how to do that. It's also going to help us seed our jalapeno. All right, as far as ingredients go, you got a thing of corn tortillas. So you want those. Let's set some of this stuff aside. You got a pineapple. You're gonna want that. 2 cans of chickpeas, some green onions, and cilantro. That's the leafy herb that you got. Salt, pepper, and some kind of oil. That's what we did not provide. An onion, a lime, a jalapeno. A lot of the jalapenos you got were giant. Some of you might have gotten smaller ones. I'm definitely not using the whole thing though, because I have a giant one here. 2 cloves of garlic, and then a little bit of ginger. That's this thing. And then all 4 of your spices. So those came in little packets. I think that's everything. Did I miss anything? I don't think so. All right. So we are going to start with making our jalapeno salsa. Also, of course, always have your recipe out. We have been working on reading recipes. This is week 6 now, so all of our students know how to read recipes. So if you want to follow along, please have that ready to go. So we are going to start with learning how to cut a pineapple. The first thing you want to do, as we've learned, is you always want to, with something round like this, you always want to create flat edges for yourself, and you always want to kind of cut it down into smaller bits. So for any you know, adults in the room, anyone who hadn't been in our classes. All of my students should know this already and they can help you out. But I'm going to teach you how to use a knife. So a chef's knife is a chef's best tool. I'm actually going to use this one. Besides their hands. So you can cut pretty much everything with a chef's knife. The way you want to hold a chef's knife is with what we call the pinch grip. You take your dominant hand, whatever hand you write with, your thumb and your forefinger, pinch the blade itself. The other 3 fingers wrap around the handle. This is going to take getting used to if you're not used to doing it this way. It's a skill, it takes practice. And then what does the majority of the cutting is the back part of the knife. A lot of people naturally use this part of the knife, which has the least amount of force. It's really not as safe to use that part, and it's not as efficient to use that part. So you want to try to use this part as much as possible. And then the way that we cut most of the time is called the chop. When we do a chop, we go down and forward. Whenever you cut, there's pressure in 2 directions. In the case of a chop, it's down and then it's forward. So we're going to chop off this whole leafy part of the pineapple. The hand that's not doing the cutting, whatever's holding the thing that you're cutting, does what we call the bear claw or tiger claw. Your fingertips are curled under. Your knuckles should be in front of your fingertips. That protects them from being chopped off. All right, so we are going to cut off this large leafy part of the pineapple. Get rid of that. And then we're also going to cut off the other end. All right, and then we are going to cut off this outer skin on all sides. So I'm going to use my bear claw as I hold my pineapple, and then I'm going to just use my chop to get rid of all of the skin that we don't want. It's okay if there's a little bit left, you can always cut that off later. All right, and then you're just gonna get rid of all of that. Now, the pineapple has a core on the inside that it's quite hard. It's not very good to eat. So we want to cut around that core. We want to cut off the pineapple. And then I'm going to have Chef Molly help me cut this down. You all know Chef Molly. She's been in a lot of our classes. So she's going to come around and she's going to be helping me doing some of the cutting on this cutting board over here. So you can kind of see the core. It's a circle in the middle, and you just want to cut around that. So you're going to very carefully cut a slice on one side, turn it, cut a slice on the other side, and keep doing that until you get all the way around. And then this is the core. I'm just going to get rid of that. And then I have this beautiful pineapple. Now we're going to use the second way that we use a chef's knife is to do a slice. And if you do have some younger siblings or younger family members helping out, they can help with these tools once you kind of cut this down for them. To do a slice with a chef's knife, you're still using your pinch grip, still always use your bear claw, and then instead of this back part of the knife that does the cutting, you're going to use the tip of the knife. So once again, pressure always in 2 directions when you cut. In this case, instead of down and forward, you're going to push down and pull back towards yourself. So this is a slice. You're using the tip of the blade. And we're making a salsa here. So a salsa, it's going to be a chunky salsa, but we want all these bits to be pretty small. So you're going to want to do thin slices of your pineapple. Push down and pull back. When you use a paring knife, once again, I use this with my 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. When you use a paring knife, you always do a slice. You can't do a pinch grip with a paring knife. It's just too small for that. So you just hold on to the handle and you push down and pull back using the tip of the knife. So younger siblings can help with this part. And then from there, we're gonna take those pieces and we're gonna use our chop to cut them into small bits. Make sure as you go that you get rid of any skin that might still be there. Like for example, I still have a little bit of skin here. I'll just cut that off as I go. If you have anyone younger than, you know, 4th grade, or even this might even be good for 4th, 5th, or 6th graders, they can use scissors. Pineapple is very soft, so it's a good thing for them to cut with scissors. So those are ways to get your younger family members involved. It's great to be cooking with your family members, and everything is a lot quicker when you get the whole family involved in cooking. So I'm gonna have Chef Molly help me with this. We're gonna just cut enough for 1.5 cups. That's how much we need. The rest of the pineapple you can do whatever you want with. You can save it for breakfast tomorrow, or have a snack, or you know, whatever you want. So I'm just gonna add to my dry measuring cups as I go. And I'm gonna use my chef's knife. Use whatever tool works best for you and your family. I did, you'll notice I have a finger with a Band-Aid on it. I did hurt my finger last night. We all hurt ourselves sometimes. It's a good reminder to be safe and to go slowly. Don't try to show off. Don't try to rush. I tend to rush when I cook sometimes, and I cut myself last night because of that. So just try to go slowly if you can. All right, and then I'm gonna cut off these parts with the skin. Do a slice. And then we're gonna do our chop, down and forward. Down and forward. It's hard to do my bear claw with a hurt finger. All right, we almost have all the pineapple we need. I'll let Molly finish this up. This last little bit of pineapple, you'll probably have about this much left over. You can do what you want with that. I'm just gonna set this aside. All right, and then where's my... So we always clean as we go. This is what we do in the classroom. This is a way for chefs to be the most efficient that they can and the most organized that they can, is by keeping your whole station clean. If you ever go into a kitchen, in a restaurant kitchen, this is really important, is keeping your station clean. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do for our pineapple salsa, and by the way, once you're done with the pineapple, when you have 1.5 cups worth, you can put that into your mixing bowl. So we're gonna put all of the ingredients for our pineapple salsa right into this mixing bowl. And then, of course, whatever is left over, I'm just gonna set off to the side if you wanna put that in there, and then we'll set it to the side. And you can do what you want with that. So our next ingredient is green onions. And we need to finely chop these, as we've learned in Youth Chef Academy. To finely chop means to chop small, not quite as small as a mince, but still fairly small. Something about green onions, a lot of people will they'll cut them in half, and some people will get rid of the white part, some people will get rid of the green part. We want to use the whole thing. It's all edible and it's all great. So the only part we're going to get rid of is this root on the end, and we're just going to do a chop to cut those roots off. And then of course any like slimy or brown bits get rid of. And then we're going to use our chop down and forward to cut those into small bits. So I'm going to have Chef Molly help me with that. I also like to cut them in half stack them all together, and that way I can do them very efficiently. I can do them all at the same time. So Chef Molly's gonna finish that. Another great way to get your younger family members involved is to have them use the scissors to cut those, or the paring knife. So remember, a paring knife always does a slice, so they can use that to just push down and pull back, or a scissors. Even I use a scissors sometimes to cut these things because sometimes my knife isn't sharp enough, and it's annoying to cut green onions without a sharp knife. So scissors are helpful in that way. All right, the next ingredient we're gonna get ready is our jalapeno. So we have a jalapeno here. If you like spicy, you can leave the seeds and the inside in. If you're not as much of a fan of spicy, you can de-seed it. So I'm gonna show you how to do that. We here want it to be spicy, so we're gonna leave our seeds, but I'll show you how to take the seeds out. All right, I need my spoon. It's helpful to have a spoon when you seed or de-seed a jalapeno. Those actually mean the same thing. English doesn't make sense. When you're cutting in a jalapeno, you also want to be very careful to try your best not to touch the inside once you cut it, and don't touch your face for the rest of the day. Maybe wash your hands after you're done cutting it. That'll help because it does burn. I've done that too many times, like touched my eyeballs after I've cut a jalapeno, and it's not fun. So do your best not to do that. If you have gloves at home, you could wear those. The first thing you want to do is cut off any, like this part. I don't want that part, that gross kind of brown part, and then cut off the stem. So you'll want to do your chop to do that, down and forward, and then you want to cut it lengthwise, straight down the middle. We call that, we're going to use the slice to do that. So you're going to cut it straight down the middle using a slice. I actually have a jalapeno here already. I'm only using half because these jalapenos are giant. If you got a smaller one in your kit, you can use the whole thing, or if you just like a lot of spice, you can use the whole thing. I'm just going to use half just because this was so huge. I have this left over from another class, so I'm just going to use this half. Now, if you do want to take the seeds out, you're going to use a spoon. The tip of the spoon is your friend, and you can use that to kind of scrape in here, and kind of, you're like cutting into the pithy part of the jalapeno, and then you can scrape out the seeds and the pithy part. So you can use that to just kind of scrape it all out. Notice how I'm holding the jalapeno from the skin side. That part is less spicy. It's gonna have less of the burn. So try your best not to trust that, or to touch that inside, because that inside is the part that really burns. So you can scrape that out. You can get rid of it if you don't want it. If you do want it, you can just leave it right in there. And then we want this to be pretty small. So to cut it small, whenever I have something long like this, we've been doing this with carrots a lot lately, where you cut it in slices first. And if you don't have a very sharp knife, it's easier to cut it with the skin side down. If you do have a pretty sharp knife, you can do the skin side up, whatever you prefer. And then make sure you're doing your bear claw, and you're gonna do slices. Remember, a slice is pushing down and pulling back, and you're using the tip of the blade to do the cutting. And then you're going to go through all of these slices with your chop, going down and forward, cutting those pieces very small. All right, I'm gonna give the rest of this to Molly. We are using that inner part because we want spicy here. Thank you, Molly. As you're cutting all of these ingredients for the pineapple salsa, so far we've done pineapple, we've done green onion, now we're doing jalapeno. All of these things can go into your mixing bowl. We're gonna mix them all together. I'll let you know once we move on to something that's not going to go into the salsa. All right, So we've done our pineapple, green onions, jalapeno. Next we're gonna do our lime. This is another great way to get younger kiddos involved. Juicing a lime is a good job for younger students. When you juice citrus fruit, the best way to cut it is, if you think of this like planet Earth with the points being the North and South Pole, if you cut it around the equator, that is the best way to juice it. So we're gonna do a chop right down the middle on the equator of the lime, and then we're gonna juice this. You can actually juice it right into your bowl. Limes don't generally have seeds on the inside. Lemons do, and in that case I would I would do it in a separate bowl and pick out the seeds. Since limes don't, we're going to juice it right into the bowl, and I'm going to have Chef Molly do that while we move on to the next ingredient. Thank you, Molly. All right, the next ingredient is cilantro. We use this today as well when we made oats upma. This is an herb, and when you're using a chef's knife, this is actually quite easy. Actually, I'll demonstrate if you do have younger family members helping out. I'll demonstrate how they can help out with this part first, and then I will talk about how we're going to mince it with a chef's knife. So mincing means to cut teeny tiny into little tiny bits, as small as you can get them. If you have family members helping with scissors, you want to pick off the leaves. So you're going to pick off the leaves and put them in a pile. Try not to get stems in there. Stems aren't bad to eat, they just don't have the best texture, and it's hard to cut them very small with the scissors. It's just very tedious. So if you do have younger family members helping with scissors, they can stack those leaves together and then use their scissors to cut them into small bits. You can also have, like I said, I use a paring knife with like 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. They can cut through that pile of leaves using a slice. And you can kind of gather it up, bunch it up again, turn it, and keep doing that until you have the size you want. We want these to be very small. If you have a chef's knife, which our 7th and 8th graders have been using in class, then we can actually, I like to make sure the stems are kind of all on one side from the leaves. And then I cut them with my chef's knife. I cut them where most of the leaves meet the large stem. And I'm just gonna do a chop to cut that off. Once again, the stems aren't bad, they just don't have the best texture. And then from this pile of stems I cut, I just grab out any leaves that I missed. The smaller stems on top, those are fine, and when you have a chef's knife to do the cutting, you can get them small enough so the texture doesn't matter as much. So just like the green onions, I like to start by cutting it in half, stack it. That way I can be as efficient as possible and just, cut all of it all at once. And then even though I'm holding things together, I'm still using my bear claw. So your knuckle should be in front of that fingertip. A lot of people naturally do this. That is how you cut your fingertips off, especially if you have a sharp chef's knife. You want to make sure those fingertips are curled. It takes practice, it's a skill. And then we're going to use our chop. And we're going to go down and forward through this pile. Once you've done that, once you've cut through that whole pile, you can gather up your pile and do the rock chop, which is the third way that we cut with the chef's knife. To do the rock chop, it's basically like the chop. So you're using the heel of the blade to do the cutting. That's this back part. You can put your hand flat on the spine, or you can pinch the spine with the other hand instead of doing the bear claw. And then you're gonna keep the tip of the blade anchored on the cutting board, and you're gonna rock it back and forth over this pile until you have a mince, which once again just means very small. And then every once in a while, you'll gather up your pile, turn it a little bit, and go through it again. until you have the size you want. Once again, I'm going to have Chef Molly finish these for me. I'll finish this pile. Alright, and that all goes into this bowl with the pineapple. So far in the mixing bowl we have 1.5 cups of diced pineapple. We have 2 green onions finely chopped. We have a jalapeno de-seeded and diced. We have a lime juiced, and we have our cilantro, which we are mincing. We gave you probably approximately 1/4 of a cup of cilantro. If you really want, you can measure it. You don't have to though, because it's probably almost exactly the amount you need. And also, by the way, if you don't like cilantro or if you don't like spicy, like, feel free to leave any of these ingredients out. You don't have to use them all. I know there are people who really don't like cilantro, and that's perfectly fine to leave that out. All right, I'm just cleaning up my station, and then we're gonna move on to the next step. All right, I did not miss any salsa ingredients, right?
No.
All right. Missed the jalapeno almost last night, so don't want to do that. Want as many flavors as we can get. All right, so then you're gonna, I'm just gonna use the spoon I used to seed the jalapeno to mix this all together, and keep that spoon, don't get rid of it yet because we're gonna need it again soon. So I'm gonna mix it. Sometimes I even like to mash this all together with like a masher or a fork or something. Gets it a little juicy. You can do that if you want to, otherwise I'm just gonna leave it like this. And then we're gonna put this in the fridge until it's time to serve our tacos. So we just did step number 1 in the directions of the recipe. We're gonna move on to step number 2 while we prep everything for step number 3. So for step number 2, that's where we're heating our tortillas, and once again, you're gonna want either like a towel to keep those tortillas warm, or you're gonna want you're gonna want like Tupperware or something just to like keep them warm as you heat them up. You can have a family member working on that, or you can heat them later. I'm gonna show you how to prep everything for the chickpea part of this recipe as Chef Molly works on heating those tortillas. So here, I'll have you do that. So we're going to be using our skillet. I'll put this right here for you. So your towel, this is just the tortillas are gonna go inside as you cook them, and then they'll stay in there to keep them warm. So I'm gonna put that back here, and then set these back here. For the tortillas, I think we'll only do a few of them because there's only a couple of us here. So only do as many as you're actually going to eat tonight, and then you can save the rest. So for the tortillas, you're going to start by turning your stove onto medium-high heat. Make sure you use your hot mitts whenever you use the stove. I'm going to put it there for you. And then you're going to heat it for like 20 to 30 seconds on one side, and then you're going to use your spatula for flipping to flip it to cook on the other side for another 20 to 30 seconds. Once you're done heating it up, you can put it in either the container or the towel to keep it warm. So Chef Molly's gonna work on that, and I'm gonna start going through what you're gonna do with the ingredients for the chickpeas. So if you are cooking alone right now, don't worry about the tortillas. That's the easiest part of this recipe. You can do that at the very end when it's time to serve this. So if you are doing that, then move on to the next step with me. All right, so for step number 3, we're gonna be cooking the chickpeas. So we have to get everything ready for the chickpeas. So that's the list of ingredients for the tacos. I'm just gonna go down the list and start preparing everything. So the first thing we need to prepare are the chickpeas, which came in a can. These are also called garbanzo beans. Same thing, different name for the same thing. So you're gonna use your can opener to open your cans. And then we're gonna drain and rinse these. We've done this almost every week. We use beans a lot because they're a great source of protein, which is a nutrient that we often get from animal foods, but beans are a great plant source of protein. And as we've been learning in Youth Chef Academy, plants are the best foods for us. They're the only foods that we need to eat in order to survive. So once you open your can of beans, you're gonna take your colander, bring it over to your sink, dump the beans into the colander and let them drain, and then you're gonna rinse them with cold water. I'm actually, just because our kitchen is small, I'm gonna have Chef Molly do this. Do you want to turn this off, Will?
No, it's fine.
Okay. Wow. Multitasker over here.
Give me one bean.
Chef Molly is a pro. She's also the one who developed this recipe and is a flavor master, let me tell you. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna get ready, we're gonna prepare is the onion. So the onion, this is something that onions go in like everything. It's something that just adds a lot of flavor and aroma to food. So this is a good skill to learn. I'm going to teach you how to cut an onion. A lot of our students learned how to cut an onion today in class. So to cut an onion, the first thing you want to do is cut off the stem end and this root end. You just want to shave a little bit of it off. Notice how I'm holding this with a bear claw. My knuckle is in front of my fingertips. A lot of people hold it like this. This is not only less secure, but it's so dangerous. You could cut those fingertips off. Whenever you have something round like this, the first thing you want to do is create a flat edge for yourself. We're going to use our chop. Remember to use your pinch grip when you hold your chef's knife. Remember, when you use a chop, you're using the heel of the blade to do the cutting, the back part, because that has the most force, strongest part of the blade. And you're going to go down and forward to chop those parts off. And now I have a flat edge. It's not rolling around as much because it's flat on the cutting board. It is way easier to take the peel off of an onion after you've cut it. So I always cut it before I peel it. And then you just want to cut right through that stem and root end. That part you just created a flat edge. So we're going to do a chop right through. Now we have 2 halves. It's much easier to peel once you have cut it in half. So you're going to get rid of that papery outer layer. And then whenever you do have a round thing that you're cutting, it is really helpful to make a flat edge for yourself and to put that flat edge flat on the cutting board rather than putting it this way, because it rolls around. It's just less secure. And then this root end, you'll see there's like a kind of a little yellowish part that is holding it all together. You want to leave that part just a little bit intact. So we're going to do slices through this onion this way, and we're going to leave this part intact so it's held together. I'm going to show you what I mean by that. Remember, a slice uses the tip of the blade to do the cutting, and you push down and pull back. This can be pretty dangerous, and so I just want you to go slow with it. It's something that, once again, takes practice. I was very impressed by some of my 8th graders today with how well they knew how to cut an onion. So good job. Also good job to my 7th graders. I didn't mean to leave you out. All right, so we are cutting slices through this onion. Remember to leave that part at the end intact. It's all held together by that. It's gonna be a lot easier to cut it the other way if you leave it intact. And this is, once again, it's a skill. It takes practice. So it's okay if you don't get it the first time. Another thing about round things in particular, it's helpful sometimes, and small things, it's helpful sometimes to do a bridge over your knife. So I'm holding my vegetable over the knife. I'm doing a bridge over it. If I don't have room to do a bear claw, that's what I do. So I'm going to do a bridge for this last part because it's hard to keep it all together. And then I'm going to, even though I'm holding things together, I'm still doing a bear claw. So I'm holding my finger, my pinky and my thumb are doing most of it. They're holding this onion together, and then I'm gonna go through and do a chop down and forward through the onion. So I have little squares. You're gonna do that with both sides. Now, if you are using a smaller knife, you can still do slices instead of a chop, like so. Once you get to this end where it's all connected, I like to just go through it one direction, and then I turn those slices and I go through it the other direction, so I have little squares. We're going to do the exact same thing with this other onion. If you have a giant onion, it's sometimes helpful to do a horizontal slice. I don't always do that because I don't always feel that it's the safest thing to do when you're cutting like towards your hand. I usually try to keep my knife vertical in this direction, but if you do have a giant onion, that can be helpful. Just do it very carefully. I think the onions we gave you are pretty small, so in general you won't have to do that. All right.
How many tacos did you want? 2?
At the
3?
most.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we'll probably be good after this.
Perfect.
All right. So you can leave your onion off to the side on your cutting board, or if you don't have room on your cutting board, you can put it on a plate or a bowl. We're not using it yet, so you're just gonna put it off to the side. The next ingredient on our list is, we have all of our seasonings, so let's measure those out into a small bowl. I'm just using this little prep bowl. Use whatever you have. So as always, you have a recipe where you have the ingredients listed, and that tells you the amounts you need. So you're going to be measuring using your measuring spoons. Make sure you read carefully, and so you have accurate measurements. And you'll be measuring out all the spices into here. I'm going to start them, and then I'm going to have Chef Molly finish them for me. So let's start with our salt, because that's the first one listed. We need 1 teaspoon of salt. So I have salt here. Also, it's okay to estimate when you're cooking. It doesn't have to be super accurate. The reason we are super accurate in New Chef Academy is because we're practicing fractions. We're using our math This is a way to apply math as we learn it. But generally with cooking, you can have a little more, a little less. The one thing you don't want to do is estimate with baking. Baking needs to be a lot more particular. It's a science. It's something that exact amounts are needed for. So I just put a teaspoon of salt into this little bowl. With these little packets, we gave you a little bit more in our packets than you actually need, so you do want to measure these. For actually, the next ingredient is black pepper, so we need a half a teaspoon of that. I'll find my half teaspoon. Remember to scoop, not skeep. Scoop. I was mixing scoop and heaping. Scoop a heaping amount, so it's more than you need, and then use the top of your lid to scrape off that extra. So there's a half a teaspoon of black pepper. And then our next ingredient is cinnamon. Cinnamon has the CN on it. Remember, on the back of your recipe, it has the abbreviations. So cinnamon has CN on it. It's brown in color. And we need 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. So we're going to find our 1 teaspoon measuring spoon. We're going to, it's a little bit harder. We don't have like a lid to level these things off with these little packets. So the way I like to do it is I scoop the amount I need, and then I just use my finger while it's inside of the packet to kind of flatten it out. And there I have 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. You can do whatever you want with your leftover spices. You'll probably have enough to make this recipe again if you want to. So you're going to do the same thing with the rest of the spices, following the amounts that you need in your ingredients list. So I will have Chef Molly finish those. And then we're gonna show you how to do your garlic and ginger. All right, for the garlic, we've been using garlic a lot of weeks in this class, so a lot of you already know how to do this. You wanna peel this outer layer. A really great way to peel that outer papery layer on garlic is to turn your knife so you have it flat, and then you're gonna put it right over your garlic clove and you're gonna hit it. Doesn't have to be a super hard hit, but you do want to crack it open a little bit. That releases oils on the inside, which repels that paper, and it comes right off when you do that. So you're going to do that with both cloves. Now, a great way to get younger students involved is to use your microplane to grate this garlic. I would just cut off, using your chop, cut off that kind of dry root end. Of both of them, and then you can use your microplane to grate it. Some people like to do it this way, like flat on the cutting board. Be careful, this is sharp, so just don't let your fingertips get too close. Some people like to do it this way, where it's kind of upside down. I prefer it this way. It's just really your own personal preference. If you are using a chef's knife, then I like to just start with doing either a slice, so thin slices one way, or you can do a chop to do those thin slices down and forward versus pushing down and pulling back, whatever you prefer. So you're going to go through the garlic one direction, then you're going to turn those pieces and do a chop going the other direction. And then once you've done that, you can gather up your pile and do a rock chop over it. Just like we did with that cilantro. So either way, if you prefer using the microplane, go for it. If you prefer using a chef's knife, And also, a paring knife, you're always just using a slice when you use a paring knife, but it's basically the exact same concept. So you slice it one way, slice it the other way until you have small bits. Just be very careful. Garlic is so small, so it's like hard to hold and hard to not cut yourself with it. I think this is what I cut myself on last night. I was just going too fast because we went a little bit over time last night.
Which, speaking of, it's 6:20.
Thank you.
Of course.
It's the key time right there. I'm not gonna rush
You're on
though.
track, so I didn't need to say anything at 6. But
Good.
now it's 6:20.
Thank you. And we're pretty close to being done, y'all. All right, so our garlic is done. And once again, you can just set that off to the side on your cutting board. If your cutting board isn't big enough, just put it in a bowl or a plate or something. You are not cooking this at the same time as your onion, so don't mix it with your onion. The next thing we're gonna do is peel our ginger. That's this little tiny thing that you got. The outer brown layer is what we're peeling off. I would recommend never using a peeler to peel this because usually you have a small amount and there's usually like divots in it that make it kind of dangerous. And it's also a very thin kind of papery peel that's very easy to peel with the tip of a spoon. And we practiced this today in class, so a lot of our students had a chance to already try this. So I like to just kind of lean it against my cutting board and scrape with my spoon. I just peel that outer layer off with the tip of my spoon. You can also peel towards yourself. You'll notice, because I never peel towards myself with the peeler because it's very sharp. A spoon is not sharp, so it's okay to peel towards yourself with this. You can already smell it, like as soon as you start peeling it. Ginger is an aromatic. It has a strong aroma or smell, and it adds a ton of flavor to dishes. It's one of those things that is just not replaceable with the ground dried version. It's so much better when you have it fresh, and it's cheap and you can find it everywhere. Just in your produce section of your grocery store. It's also so good for you. It's an anti-inflammatory. Just really good for you. All right, I'm gonna get rid of that peel, and then we're gonna use this is where you definitely wanna use your microplane. This is actually why I bought a microplane in the first place, was to grate my ginger. So just like I said, you're just gonna go back and forth over your microplane with that ginger. You'll see it start to gather there. You're gonna have to use either your finger or a spoon or spatula to scoop that out once you're done. Just be careful of those fingertips. We don't want any cuts. Once you get, too close to the end where, you feel like you might cut yourself, you can just get rid of the rest. Or you can chop it up with a knife, whatever you prefer. All right, and then I'm gonna scoop that out and set it off to the side. And I think we're ready to cook.
I was gonna say, just a reminder that garlic is not on the recipe.
Ginger is not.
I'm sorry, yes, ginger, but it should be with the garlic.
Yes, thank you. So in the directions, we don't have ginger listed in the directions part. We're gonna add it as we cook when we add the garlic. So garlic and ginger, they kind of burn quickly. Do you mind grabbing me that rag? So you don't wanna cook them as long as like we're gonna cook our onions and chickpeas. So I'm gonna start this cooking process. We're on step number 3, and we're gonna heat our skillet over medium-high heat, kind of in the middle of medium and high. turn it down if you start noticing it burn. You're gonna take your oil. You can measure this out if you want. I'm gonna estimate. The more you cook, the better you get at estimating. And then you can always add more if you need to add, if you notice it start sticking. The recipe calls for 3 tablespoons of oil. And then you're going to add your chickpeas and onions. Thank you. And we're gonna saute. Remember, saute is to cook in a fat. In this case, it's oil. That could be butter or lard. And it's to stir as you cook. So a synonym or another word for saute is to stir fry. You're frying as you stir versus cooking in a liquid. So we call this a dry heat method, even though it's not necessarily dry. It just means you're not using a liquid to cook it. Alright, so we're going to be doing this for a few minutes until it's a little bit crispy. And I'm just going to set a timer for myself. That's another thing. I like to set timers for myself, but some people just are good at just like seeing when it's done or feeling when it's done. So just do whatever is best for you. Alright, and then once this is done, we're going to be adding more oil and spices. So we're on step number 3 if you're following along on your recipe. And then we'll add our garlic and ginger. And then we're going to be done. How's everyone doing out there? Good.
We got some good.
Good. Thank you all for joining me tonight. I know we just cooked something together. I'm glad that we were able to cook something together again. While this cooks, I'm just going to clean up my station. Actually, let's keep that for the salsa. Sorry. Thank you. I'm going to stir this every once in a while. If anyone, this is a good time to catch up if I was going too fast for anyone. I was trying to go a little bit quicker tonight, so I went a little over last night. I'm going to cut up this last little bit of ginger. You could measure out your ginger. You only need, I think, a half, let's see, what was it? A half of a teaspoon. You probably have a little bit more. I love ginger. I don't know about you, but I'm going to just use it all. Yeah. Why waste? Can I hand you my knife? Thank you. These. Clean as we go. Chickpeas are, once again, they're a bean. They're a great source of plant protein. Protein is a nutrient that we need in order to survive. And we get a lot of protein from animal foods. So all animal foods are a great source of protein. And they are a complete protein. That's just means that they have every component of protein that our bodies need as humans. Not all plant proteins are complete on their own, but when we combine things, we can get a complete protein. And in this case, usually if you combine a legume, which is a plant food, it's a seed that comes in a pod. So the types of legumes are beans, soybeans, peanuts, lentils, and peanuts. Or wait, I already said peanuts. Peas. So those there are 5 legumes. Generally, legumes are great sources of plant protein. When you combine them with a whole grain, we learned about grains today in class. When you combine them with a whole grain, they become a complete protein. So you can replace meat sources of protein by combining legumes and whole grains. In this case, beans are what we're using as our legume. And corn tortillas are what we're using as our whole grain. All right, so the next thing we're gonna add is our bowl of spices and 2 teaspoons of oil. I'm just gonna estimate. We're gonna stir and cook this for another 2 to 3 minutes. It smells so good already. The reason why we talk about plant foods in Chef Academy is because plants are the best foods for us. We can get everything we need from plants. We can't get everything we need from animal foods alone. And we eat too many animal foods in our culture, here in America, in today's society, which has led to a great increase in certain diseases like heart disease in particular, the #1 killer. And that's a new thing that's happened, and that's come with the increase in eating a lot of highly processed foods and eating animal foods. So the more that we can replace those animal foods with plant foods, the better, and the less likely we're going to get those diseases later on in life. That is not to say that animal foods are bad, that you should cut them out completely. That's totally your own personal preference. I eat meat. I eat animal foods. I love animal foods. But the amount that we eat here in our current culture is just so much, and it really does add to the risk of those diseases later on in life. All right. Next thing we're going to add is our garlic and ginger. And garlic and ginger, once again, they burn easily. So we're only going to cook this for like 30 seconds, and then we're going to turn our stove off. And we're going to serve. Make sure you mix this well. The ginger will kind of mush together, so you want to break that up a little bit. I'm going to add a little more oil because it's just sticking a little bit. Making a mess. A bit of a messy cook. All right, I'm going to turn this off, and then let's build our tacos. We'll grab our pineapple salsa out of the fridge. Let's grab a plate. Thank you. Grab our warm tortillas. All right, so then in your tortilla, you can add a little bit of your chickpeas. Careful, they're going to be hot. And then you can add some of this pineapple salsa. Give it a stir. Some of those juices will be at the bottom. And there you have it. Jerk chickpea tacos and pineapple salsa. Let's try it. So good. Yum. So much flavor. So good for you. Thank you all so much for coming tonight. I know this was a little last minute. I meant to tell you about it a while ago and I just forgot. So thank you for those of you who could join us. Thank you for cooking with me tonight. And we have a poll that we would like you to take. If you can, it's going to take 2 seconds. It's 2 questions. So before you leave, If you could answer the questions that we're going to put on the screen as soon as I finish talking, that would be awesome. Otherwise, I will see you all next week in class, and I hope you enjoy your tacos tonight. Good night, everybody.